any nails left, I'll be gobsmacked.
And a collective breathe out. We got there, we made it. Full time, City have beaten Bournemouth 1-0, and I don't know about you all, but oh my goodness, that was a lot at the end. I could not look through my fingers there. Ali Man was right, I was biting my nails. Thank you so much to Alistair Mann and to Andy Morrison for the excellent commentary today. I'm still joined in the studio by Steve Howie and by Keith Curl. I was on the edge of my seat at the end there, Keith, but we did it. We rode it out at the end.
Yeah, there's a saying, good teams can win 1-0, even more so away from home. Completely different contrast in first half to second half, where you felt comfortable, in control, a sense of dominance in the fixture, to the last 20-25 minutes where it's living on a knife edge.
Really was on a knife edge. You can see what it means there, the players and Pep on the pitch clapping the away fans as always. Pep always coaching, always. That man, John Stones, what an unbelievable game for him. This feels like a really big win today, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, not a great performance by any means. I think at this stage of the season, it's all about getting 3 points. And I think, if anything, the lads will take a lot more out of that than if it was a comfortable 3-4-0, because they know they've battled so hard together. They haven't kind of laid down. They've made it difficult for Bournemouth. You've got to give Bournemouth some credit. That, you know, they made it very difficult for City. Attacked them. I mean, there was the header at the end as well. A ball's coming into the box, and it was nail-biting. But you've got to give credit to Man City. They were resilient. They managed to keep another clean sheet. So that's 2 games. They haven't played brilliant, but they've got 6 points and they've kept a clean sheet. So there's the positives.
Yeah, the clean sheet feels really important as well. There was a stat that I forget before about the amount of time City had conceded, and conceded first in away games as well. So the clean sheet feels like a really big tonight, especially with the full team defending in those dying minutes as well, Steve.
Yeah, I think I had the stat as well, but again, I can't remember it. But I think they'd gone behind, but they'd managed to win the most points than any other team, I think, in the Premier League by coming from behind. As I said, you know, we were speaking before the game. We thought Bournemouth would be a bit more defensive, but they weren't. It was quite an open game the first half. The second half was even more so. You've got to give credit to Bournemouth, but at the same time, the manager, Pep, will be absolutely delighted with these players. That's very hard fought 3 points. As I said, at this stage of the season, you know, yes, you want to win 2-3-4-0. You want to be playing magnificent football, but you only get the same amount of points for the win, and it was a hard-fought 1-0 win.
We talked about at half-time, Keith, about City dominating the first half, but Bournemouth still being in the game. We'd hoped to see City come out in the second half and extend their lead. Instead, Bournemouth came out into the second half and grew into that game, to the point where I was so relieved when the final whistle went. What do you think Bournemouth did different in that second half?
I think they committed more men forward. And I think they conceded. Well, first half, City dominated the midfield, and all the play was in the midfield. Second half, Bournemouth, I think, well, down to City's tactical moves as well, and their substitutions. They took players out of that middle of the field. John Stones wasn't stepping in as much, and then Nunes going off, and Doku coming on, who predominantly played on the left-hand side. So there's 2 men less in the midfield, and then Bournemouth bypassed the midfield as soon as they won the ball back. And you think like they're playing 3 and 4 up front all the time. So you're always going to be under pressure as a defender. Whereas in the first half, I think City were even though Bournemouth had a couple of attacks, City still had, they outnumbered them. Whereas in the second half, a lot of times 3v3, 4v4.
The defence, especially Ruben Dias, John Stones, working exceptionally hard today. Ruben Dias had a phenomenal game, I thought.
Yeah, did very well. I think I said that the only substitution I didn't think he'd change any of the defenders. That's the foundation and the platform to build off of. And again, today they were asked different questions than what some other fixtures will come up against. And you can see, I think, the intensity, how Bournemouth played in that game represents where they are in the division, comfortably staying up again this season in a division when you have a look at the size of the club and what they were able to financially procure with the attendances. You're thinking like they've done very well in home games. You think like they're going to win, and strangely enough, their home record isn't that good this season. But you can see if they play like that in a lot of their home games, they're going to pick up points at home.
Yeah, it's surprising from what we've seen, especially with the atmosphere as well. Obviously, you could hear how loud the home fans were as well. In terms of substitutions, we spoke at half-time about what we might see, what we'd like to see. Jeremy Doku came on. What did you make of his performance when he came on, Steve?
I thought he did okay. There was one time in particular, right towards the end, he does very well because he tracks back and he manages to come out with the ball, and it just gives City that little bit of breathing space. I'm not surprised it was for Núñez, but I didn't think it was probably his best game first half. Okay, second half, not really in it. But having said that, I just thought in the second half, the final balls, I think really from the City lads, just wasn't quite getting there. And that's why Bournemouth has obviously just managed to step up the pace and attack City a little bit more. But yeah, Doug will be, I mean, he'll be pleased. He'd feel as though he's come on, he's contributed, which he did do, because in all fairness, yes, he had a couple of chances to get at the Bournemouth defenders. But he did very well coming back as well, because if he doesn't come back, then there's an overload on City's left-hand side, their right-hand side, which could have caused problems.
Do you feel like, Steve, we're seeing a different side to City this season? Obviously, in previous years, we've been so free-flowing and scored so many goals, whereas it feels perhaps, from this game and a couple of the other games we've had recently, the Brentford game midweek as well, that we are fighting a bit more, we're grinding out a result a bit more.
Well, I think that, again, that just shows the adaptability, but also the resilience of the team. Yes, everybody kind of associates Man City with fast-flowing, exciting football, but sometimes you can't win games like that all the time, and oppositions make it difficult. You look at the way that Bournemouth had applied themselves, you look at Brentford, them two teams won't go out and play that way against other teams. It's specifically for Manchester City, and make it difficult for them to break them down. But for me, again, it just shows the resilience and the togetherness that they do seem to have in the team. As I said, we're getting to the nitty-gritty part of the season. And this is an ideal kind of game for the players. It just goes to show they've been there, seen it and done it, because it will be easy to concede one, and then therefore it's a 1-1 draw. But because they've got that experience of being in these difficult games, they've just managed to see it out. I think the Bournemouth fans will be going away and they'll be reasonably pleased. But for City, that's a big win.
Big win that takes us 1 point behind Liverpool at the top of the table. Arsenal play this evening against Newcastle. So City sitting just 1 point behind Liverpool on a weekend where they don't play in the league. We've now played the same number of games as them, which I mentioned before the game, to me felt like it was so important that we won this today when they're not playing in the league. I mean, for you, Keith, how big was the 3 points in terms of keeping up with Liverpool this evening?
No, massive, because it wasn't effectively the game in hand, but then that puts pressure now back onto Liverpool at the top, so they'll be feeling extra pressure going into theirs, knowing that a draw won't be enough because City will be able to take them with a win. So that puts a different type of pressure, a different mentality into the Liverpool changing room. And again, so is it easier being a chasing team? Yes, as long as you get your results. And then there's going to be so many twists and turns from now to the end of the season, and it's about each squad, each fixture, players looking after themselves and doing what needs to be done in each game. Like today, there was something different asked of City in the second half, and they stood up to the test. And again, I'll say again, if Bournemouth play like that against some of the teams that they've got from now to the end of the season, they're going to upset a few teams.
And another great point about tonight, we mentioned the clean sheet again. So that is now in the Premier League for Edison, 110 clean sheets in the Premier League. He has the most clean sheets for Manchester City in the Premier League. He's just overtaken Joe Hart, of course, in the week that Joe Hart announced his retirement. We're going to have a good old chat about Joe Hart on Tuesday night before the Luton game. But it's crazy when you think how long Edison's been with us now. The most clean sheets ever for City in the Premier League. He deserves that, Steve. Absolutely.
I mean, he's not only is he's a very good goalkeeper, shot stopper, his distribution for me is by far the best. I mean, there's goalkeepers that's good at it. He is the best. I mean, I think he wouldn't look out of place playing outfield. That's how good he is on the ball. I think also as well, I think he's got to pay credit to, and I'm sure he will, to his defenders. Because obviously they help him out. But yeah, I mean, he's been so consistent, been so good. I mean, even tonight, for instance, today, he was off a great save from Solanke from the header. It was right on the goal line, massively important save, but absolutely deserves it. He's been superb.
When we needed him today, he was there, wasn't he, Keith?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've been impressed with because he's playing in a team that dominate possession, your concentration levels, excuse me, have to be 100%. Need to clear my throat there. Probably talking about goalkeepers, not my favourite.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure David James is currently shouting at the screen wanting to talk about goalkeepers, but we are going to talk about Joe Hart on Tuesday night, of course, in the week that he announced his retirement. So City have beaten Bournemouth 1-0. It got really, really tight at the end. If we're going to take... I mean, there's lots of positives to take from it, but in terms of looking forward, Steve, what do you think are the key things that we've learned, that Pep learned, that the players have learned from the game this evening?
I think the togetherness, the teamwork, the resilience, you know, that kind of, if my mate makes a mistake, I'm going to help him out. Everybody seemed to be there for each other. You looked at everybody as shouting and encouraging each other as well. And as I said, you know, other teams would have possibly gone down there and conceded late on. And whilst it was kind of a little bit nail-biting towards the end, they didn't concede. And that's the difference. You know, because some teams will concede, but if you've got aspirations to win the league, which City have done, they know what it takes. So they've just got that nous, that know-how, just to get them over the line. As I said, not a brilliant performance, but at this moment, the most important thing is 3 points, and they got them.
Absolutely, yes, they did. They got 3 points, so 1 point behind Liverpool, second place in the league. So at half-time and before the game, we gave you the clues for tonight's Mystery Blue. So did you get it? And we had a fourth extra clue from Mr. Steve Howie, which we will ask you about in just a second.
It wasn't that bad of a clue or good of a clue.
So this player featured for both City and Bournemouth. He captained City from 2003, and he formed a formidable partnership alongside Richard Dunn. And we got an extra clue. His nickname when he... just confirm what you said, Steve. What was his nickname?
Dusty.
His nickname was Dusty. And tonight's Mystery Blue was, of course, Sylvain Distin. Where did Dusty come from, Steve?
Dusty Distin. I think Dunny might have come up with it for some reason, unless Dunny was taking the mick out of him and said it. I don't know. I think Dunny's on the next show, isn't he?
We'll find out.
You might have to ask him about that. But yeah, Dusty. But Sylvain was a great lad, great athlete, good player. Yeah, I mean, he had a good time down here, but I got on with him really well. I mean, he used to take the mick out of him quite a lot, which he didn't like because he was a little bit too serious at times, Sylvain. But yeah, very, very good player.
Congratulations if you got tonight's Mystery Blue. I got it on the second clue. The second clue, I guessed it tonight. So pretty chuffed with myself there. So the Premier League is done for tonight. We look ahead now and to Tuesday. The FA Cup is back. We are in action. We'll be travelling back down to Kenilworth Road to take on Luton. I will be joined here in the studio by Paul Dickoff and by Nicky Weaver. FG will be taking the trip down there with Sean Wright Phillips. They'll both be at Kenilworth Road. The FA Cup is back. The T word is still on. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it. No way. When the draw came out, I was happy and then confused because obviously Luton have had some good performances since that FA Cup draw. What sort of game are you expecting from them on Tuesday night?
I think Luton will try and recreate what Bournemouth have done today, getting on the front foot and getting men forward and putting City under pressure. So again, as a barometer, today's game will be a good soundbar for what to expect when you go to Kenilworth Road. Because I think Luton have done well. Out of the 3 teams that came up last season, I think they've adapted to the Premier League very well. And again, at home they recreate that atmosphere. They try and get on the front foot, and they're going to put City under pressure.
Did you ever play at Kenilworth Road?
I did. Played against them in the FA Cup. For Newcastle, John Hartson was playing for Luton. We got beat 1-0, I think. It was a massive shock, but yeah, I mean, just to get back to that, I think it's a tough game. I mean, you look at, if I'm being honest, I was probably one of the people that thought when Luton got promoted, they'll struggle. You know, they'll probably get least amount of points, and but they've done so well. I mean, even the games when they've played the top teams, Arsenal, Liverpool, even the game against City, you know, they've made it so difficult. They can play, but I tell you what they do, they mix it up and they can be aggressive, they can be physical. And I think that's what they'll try and do against City in the Cup.
Yeah, we obviously played them there not too long ago. We obviously sent the minibus down with the former players that had played there as well. What a day out they all had. And it wasn't an easy win. It was, they made the day difficult for us. Obviously, they have the huge advantage of that home crowd. We've heard a lot about the atmosphere and the intimidation of Kenilworth Road. That will obviously be a big factor and play into their hands on Tuesday night.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice ground to play in, but it can be an intimidating because of the crowd are that close, and when they're on the front foot, it's a difficult place to play because you know that the secret for them is using that to their advantage. So Bournemouth will be trying to recreate that how they played in the last 20 minutes, half an hour of that game. The manager will be asking for that sort of intensity week in, week out, and it's difficult to do. Luton have been able to do that periodically at the beginning of this season. They've done it quite a few times and got good results.
Do you think there'll be a similar City team to tonight, or any changes you're expecting or would like to see?
I'm not sure. I think the manager might mix it up a little bit. I think the lads that came off the bench, we've seen Ducko and obviously Kevin De Bruyne. Does he bring in Grealish? Does he start with Alvarez? I think there'll be a few changes. I think he'll mix it up a little bit. But who they are, again, it's you just don't know with Pep, do you? But normally 9 times out of 10, or pretty much 10 times out of 10, the team that he picks is good enough to win.
Will there be an eye on the following weekend's game? Of course, we have the derby match against United on the Sunday.
I think, yeah, but at the same time, for me, you get asked this question about, this game's coming in so many weeks' time. I just think you've got to concentrate on the one that's in front of you. I think if you look too far ahead, it can kind of go against you. I think if you're a player and you do that, and maybe it's not at full tilt as you say, that's when you'll either lose the game or you might get injured and stuff like that. So I just think the players are that professional, they're that focused. It'll be a case of, look, we've got to concentrate on Luton today, and then once that's done, then they can start looking at the next.
Thank you, thank you. So Tuesday night, the FA Cup, City take on Luton. I'll be here in the studio with Nicky Weaver and Paul Dickoff. Very, very much looking forward to that too. That'll be a fun night. Also, we need to announce the winner of our signed Jack Grealish boots. So, thank you so much for everybody that has entered. We had over 10,000 entrants for this. Thank you so much. The winner, I can reveal, congratulations, if you live in High Wycombe and your name is Stuart Harvey. Congratulations, Stuart. You have won this pair of Jack Grealish signed boots. We will be in contact with you to get them to you. Congratulations, and thank you again. Over 10,000 entries we had on that competition. So, Luton on Tuesday night, and then next Sunday, Manchester City take on Manchester United. Our women's team are also taking on Manchester United very, very shortly. That will be on Saturday, the 23rd of March. That is the international break weekend for the Premier League. It is taking place at the Etihad. It is a 12:30 kickoff. Last year we did it at the Etihad. We had over 44,000 of you came. We'd love to get more than that. Tickets are on sale now. And of course, the women's team, if you did not know, are having a phenomenal season. They are currently on the same points as Chelsea at the top of the table. They're still in the FA Cup. They're still in the Conti Cup as well. So it could be a huge season for the women's team. So get along and support them. Saturday, the 23rd of March, 12:30 kickoff at the Etihad Stadium. Cannot wait for that one, gents. I'm absolutely counting down. They've already beaten United twice this year at Old Trafford, at the Joy Stadium in the Cup as well. So we're going for a treble over United in that one as well. So thank you, Keith. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you. Steve, thank you for being here as
Pleasure
always.
As always, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for joining us on Matchday Live this evening. Thank you to Alistair Mann, and thank you as always to Andy Morrison as well. So, City go back to 1 point behind Liverpool, who are at the top of the table, of course, just 2 weeks until that game at Anfield. Have a wonderful weekend, Blues. See you back here Tuesday night for the FA Cup.